Corsair, our non-stimulant, thermogenic, and recomposition agent. Corsair is a super cool product because it's going to help you utilize turning your white adipose tissue, which is for storage of fat, into brown adipose tissue, which is going to help with energy production. So this is great to use for a competition prep or in your weight loss phase. So you can stack it with a stimulant-based thermogenic, or you could also use it in your off-season or muscle building phase to help keep you lean and mean. Corsair.
And that was the third time that the Bubble Bath Boys got together.
I love that it worked out with dancing and awkward bubble baths. It's just all good. We launched ourselves into this one. So, hey guys, welcome back to Hanging Out. Today is Steven and I, and Steven looks to have some sort of fancy coffee. What are you drinking over there, Steven?
So I do a double espresso, and I do the raw sugar, and then I do it like I could do a cappuccino or a macchiato, but I'm lazy. So I just pour in a bunch of like pre-sweetened creamer and then throw it in the microwave for like 30 seconds.
Nice.
America.
We have like, it grinds the beans for each cup, and then I can do like espresso or a latte, cappuccino, and like stuff like that. It's like a Philips machine. And I really like it, but we've had it for probably 4 years now. And no matter how much I do all of the maintenance and like fun stuff, it's like making more noise. And how like they just make a lot of noise when they do stuff. Like I feel like it's louder. So I'm probably gonna have to get something new soon. And I know I should get like the big kid espresso maker, but I just feel like it's so much work. I like that all I have to do is press a button.
Well, they make really nice ones that are kind of the same thing. And so the reason we have this one is because Jillian got it for me as a Christmas present, because when her parents offered us like their $4,000 one that does like the cappuccinos and all the stuff, she's like, no, I don't like that one because I want to be able to do drip coffee 1 cup at a time and change out the beans so I can do different kinds all the time. And you can't change out the beans on that one.
Right.
So because, the expensive free one didn't come over, that is why we have the other one that I use.
You should have still taken the expensive free one and then used that one as needed.
We don't have the kitchen space.
Yeah.
We need to upgrade.
I hear you.
Upgrade.
Oh, I forgot for a second when we were talking about what the point was.
I think we were going to do question and answer, right?
We are. Guys, it's going to be a good one. I'm excited. So I posted in our Facebook group for the Transformation Challenge, which is up to like almost 2,000 people in the Facebook group, which is pretty bonkers. And so we got a good amount of questions. I think I have like,
I really wish we had like a sound effects thing. So like when you said bonkers, we could like,
I mean, if you want to take that on, that's just not something I have the mental bandwidth for, but I feel like you would rock a soundboard.
I don't have I have many other things to get done before I'm effing with that.
Add that to the list of wouldn't it be cool? And
yeah, there you go. Person who complained about our F-bombs. I said effing instead of.
And look at your shirt.
Actual word.
Your shirt. I noticed that. And I was like, I love it.
Thanks, America Labs. Thanks, Core.
Is hilarious. Okay, so these are questions from the participants in our New Start challenge that kicked off on February 12th. It runs for 90 days, which I believe takes us to May 12th. And so everyone's getting started this week. So let's see what they have some questions about. I'm just going to randomly pick from the list.
And I warned her that if I don't like the questions, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't like that question.
I have a doozy. We're going to start off with a doozy, okay?
Ugh.
I've been dieting all my life, and now I can only lose weight if I'm eating below 1,200 since my BMR is at 1150. Without exercise, I cannot eat a decent meal without putting on weight. How do I increase my BMR? What if you hit a plateau? I can't keep cutting my calories. For context, I'm 42, 150 centimeters, and I weigh 59 kilos. 2, I stress eat. What kind of mental strategy can I employ to avoid grabbing that piece of chocolate or bag of chips? Is that a thought process I can use to stop myself?
All right, so hold on. I'm still stuck on centimeters to inches. So that's about 5'2" at 157 centimeters, by the way.
That's,
And
I
then
don't have that one
57
down yet.
kilos.
Yep.
I always have to do the conversions. So 57 kilos, about 125 pounds. I mean, that's not crazy to me.
You
That's
said
not
five
like
two?
5'2", 125. Like, yeah, you could be leaner for sure, but like,
No, I think that's probably like a really nice physique point. And it doesn't shock me that she's stuck at a place of 1,200 calories because being at 5'2", like she's a smaller lady.
yeah.
And then people all her life probably said this is how much you should eat because you're a smaller person. Now, when I read this one, I had started to respond to her because as they've been posting questions, it's killing me because I want to go through and answer everything. But then I was like, Christina, stop it. We're going to record a podcast. I did recommend a reverse diet, right? Like that's something that we would need to work on. But I thought it was interesting that she mentioned the 1,200 calories, but then also brought up the stress eating, which makes me think we're probably hitting more than 1,200 calories on a fairly regular basis, I bet.
Yeah, I didn't even make it that far. I got caught up at ADHD on like centimeters because anything but metric system, right?
Right.
You listed 82 crocodiles
Cannot
today.
compute.
Well, like I thought, like, so I think for sure, like extra calories coming in if we're stress eating and going over that kind of stuff. So that would make sense. But I mean, like, also, how old did she say she was? It's like
She is 42.
42. So wouldn't it be unheard of to think that like there might be stuff just in her body, especially if she's had a stressful life, had a really long history of, albeit aggressive dieting, like things might not be working as normal or as she's used to in earlier decades of her life. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of people, when they come to me like that, the easy and the low hanging fruit is definitely okay. Well, if you know you stress eat, there's extra calories, right? You already touched on that one. So, we need to work on stress management, your coping mechanisms. And maybe that's not us. Maybe it's like therapist stuff, whatever. But you have to work on the coping mechanisms to find more beneficial coping mechanisms for your physique goals, right? But then I also think, well, are you as healthy as we like to give ourselves credit for, right? Because I feel like a lot of times we get dead into those like things that just don't quite feel the same because it's like this really
I'm
like it's
42
not
now.
a huge drop off.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes that thing where you're just like, that's just life, you know?
Yeah, so I always think like, are you actually as healthy as you think you are? Um, have you been to the doctor? Have they actually done an in-depth dive? And this one's hard because a lot of GPs might not have this super in-depth knowledge of like, okay, they might not be running some of the other stuff that you need for your labs to really know. Especially if like you're in your lower 40s, like some people do get early menopause. Like they get menopausal symptoms and maybe their thyroid's not working as great anymore. Like that stuff can happen, but if you're 42, they might not necessarily be thinking about that stuff because you're 42, you should be in a pretty good spot and your weight's not crazy you know. But then that comes down to like, okay, do we want to work with somebody that specializes in that stuff, like the endo, and somebody who really gets it and feels like they listen to us and make sure that that stuff's good? Or for a lot of people, they may be limited on that, their accessibility to those things too.
Right. So that's something that if somebody has concerns there, I always try to, if they can, get them into the doctor, get that stuff looked at. I don't touch any of that with a 10-foot pole because I don't know anything about it. So I'm just like, let's go to a doctor. We're not going to like if they're going to do a facial and then also offer to pump you full of pellets at the same time, like maybe we go somewhere that's putting in a bit more effort to making sure you're good to go. I don't love like if they're going to sell you like shampoo and then they're also going to sell you hormones, that's where I'm concerned. So I haven't go that way, but I coach a lot in this population of people. And a lot of times things are pretty good. They might not be optimal, but they're in range. And then I'll have them talk to your doctor about like, okay, well, maybe they have some tools for you to nudge you a bit more optimal with those kinds of things. But more often than not, I feel like because it became really popular to talk about all of the thyroid issues, all of the all of the issues, right, that could potentially keep you at a weight that you don't want to be at, then everyone's like, oh, that's what it is. They just haven't found it yet. And like sometimes, yeah, that is the case, but not for everybody, right? And so the big thing that I find is like what she mentioned in her question, says BMR is at 1150. I question where that came from. And then that she's trying to hit 1200 calories, but that she stress eats. And the number one thing I see as we get older and life gets busier is we have a hell of a lot more on our plate. We're trying to do things. We're trying to multitask. We're trying to, like, we're trying to stay above water with like a lot of stuff. Even if we're like really great at doing it, we're still juggling a lot of things. And then maybe we're not paying attention to the fact that to like the handful of candy that we're popping in our mouth as we walk past the desk, or, stealing bites as we cook, or like different things. And that stuff can add up. So what is it like when people report their calories? They're
Normally 50% under.
50.
Like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
underreport by 50% typically.
And really, this is far more common, I feel
Yeah.
like, than there being a secret boogeyman that's causing the issues. We should always investigate that. But I think that more often than not, even when we're talking about somebody who's like full on in menopause or like going through the year of cessation and like all of that kind of stuff, that it's still a lot of like cleaning up intensity, cleaning up consistency, and going from there. And so I try to push people, if they're not at a place where they would rate themselves like a 99%, like, yes, I'm doing all of these things, don't rush to blame it on something else. Like, let's dial in that other stuff first, which doesn't
I'll
mean,
say even 90%.
yeah,
Like even if you're 90% good. And so like I think maybe this is where I fall, is my expectation is that if she's reaching out and asking these questions, and she's looking at like BMR and all the other stuff, like my normal thought process is, okay, if we're being that in depth about it, I expect that all the other stuff is in check, right? I
right.
expect that we're paying attention to our daily activity and step count, and like there's not a huge variations there, right? We're probably getting good sleep for the most part. We're getting at least 6 hours and it's quality enough. Our stress is within manageable and reasonable levels. Our life is not shit all the time, right? And we're not always freaking out about everything. We're tracking our food and actually weighing it, not estimating. And so that may be on me, because I think if you're doing all of that and for a fact everything's in check, cool. I think, yeah, maybe it does make sense at that point to look further into it. But if you're not doing all of that shit, then you have at that point, we need to get the ducks in a row first.
Right.
You can't worry about getting them. Yeah. 100%.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I had recommended in the group that we probably want to start working on a reverse diet there, and then take a look at workouts, different stuff, right? Okay, I have.
But then again, she could be simply underreporting calories, not only just from the extra stress eating, if she's not actually tracking really, like, not quite meticulously, but to the T.
Right.
That underreporting, again, very typical for you to underreport calories by like 50%.
And
You could be
here's
eating
the
an extra
great
600 calories.
Here's the great news about that, though. In this situation, say she had signed up with me as a client and she told me that this is what she's eating. She can't lose weight. If she looks at food, she gains it, all of this kind of stuff. And then I have her do a deep dive on macros. And you know what always ends up happening? They apologize when they send it and say, I'm sorry, my numbers are higher. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. This is fantastic news. I'm so glad that you're maintaining at this higher weight, or this higher intake and things like that. So when you're doing the deep dive, don't think that if you find more that like you've done something wrong. These are new tools that we are currently working with that we are just inventorying. That's all it is. It's just a fact finding mission. Okay, I had a good one. Where'd it go? Oh, okay. And this is like,
Oh.
so I wouldn't have thought that I would see something like this. Could you please ask about Himalayan salt on the diet program? I'm a beginner, new to weights. Would it be okay if I salt my food? I cramped a little in my calf today. Yes, salt your food. Salt to taste 100%. You're like, unless you have a diagnosed issue with a cardiologist that you are currently seeing routinely to take care of yourself, and like this is an issue, you should 100% be salting your food to taste, because your body is smart and it'll be like, oh, I need salt. And it'll tell you that you want salt. And then you go get it for it, is what you're supposed to do. And then it helps. And so you don't have to fight that.
Yeah. So, and other people also, and like if you've heard stories and really read into it, some people like being thirsty can also be like hyponatremia is what they call it, which means you need more salt. It's the same feeling. You'll just feel thirsty because salt helps with fluid retention or water retention. There's people that actually have been dehydrated in sun sport stuff, and they just kept drinking more water, 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 and they actually had it like they had to go to the hospital or had issues because they kept dehydrating themselves worse because they were flushing the sodium
Flushing it
out.
straight through. Yep.
So important to understand sodium is important for blood volume, which is your blood pressure stuff. It's important for how all of your muscles work. So yeah, cool, your biceps, your triceps, your booty, your quads, but also like your diaphragm that controls breathing, your heart and cardiac tissue that controls, blood getting to everything.
Digestion, motility, everything moving along, getting its way out.
Right. All of it. So the your kidneys, they reabsorb more or less, and the part of the kidney that's called the transverse tubules, and it's way more information than you need, based on how your body is sensing things like osmolarity. So how much water is in and how much pressure is in your body. And it's going to either pee out more or less, given that you have healthy kidneys, based on all that stuff. It'll get there. Now, obviously, if you have issues where like you get a lot of swelling and water retention and edema, all right, maybe your kidneys aren't doing the greatest. Perhaps for you, yes, you should really pay attention and most certainly always listen to your doctor if they have given you
Right.
a 2 cents on it, right?
Yeah.
But for healthy adult and healthy kids and healthy individuals, that's not that big of a thing. And by the way, you don't need to have Himalayan salt. There's nothing special about it. Just have salt. Have whatever the hell salt you want.
I do prefer it. I think it tastes nice though.
I like how sea salt tastes best, but shit, I like iodized salt, like just regular table salt too. It's not like a magic thing to have Himalayan salt or sea salt or whatever. Like if you like the taste, great. But there is no reason why you need to have Himalayan salt over regular table salt over sea salt. Like it's it's not a thing. Buy the cheap salt if you want.
Don't stress. Yeah. Before we started podcasting, I was doing a video to a client, and we were talking about like taking in fuel and stuff during workouts. And I use liquid IV when I'm running, and I particularly like theirs because I can taste the salt that's in it. And so I do like the lemon lime flavor that has the salt to it. And it always ends up with my two little water bottles that one of them will be like more concentrated than the other one when I make it. And when that one, I'll take a hit of that when I'm like halfway through a really tough like run workout or something. And I swear I can feel the salt hit my bloodstream and it's like, whoo, let's go. And like I can take off again. And so I can't imagine like trying to be in a place where I'm limiting it. And if you're cramping in your workouts, then that's like a pretty good sign that our water is not doing its job. It's just going in and out. And a great place to start would be simply salting your food to taste, because generally you're not going to overdo it that way.
Yeah, and you could do other things like a Gatorade or a Gatorade Zero. Like
Oh,
those things
yeah.
are made for
If
those
we're adding that
same
in.
kind of situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like similar to liquid IV, I just use the core hydrate.
Yeah, that's
Same
another.
difference.
Yeah, I'm
You
very
know?
much a creature of habit. So I was already like deep into my love affair with liquid IV when Core came out with Hydrate. And so I had bought some, but I'm like, I just really need it to be I don't change flavors of my other one. Like I'm very hyper fixation, right? That's a superpower.
You're loyal. I like that. I can respect the loyalty. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Do.
Maybe you should have read these first. You should have known. You should have had the outline.
Well, I had random ones. I'm gonna go
Don't
off
listen
of
to
just
me.
those ones, right? Okay. Best way to fight hunger, especially in the last month of the 90-day challenge when calorie adjustments have been tweaked a few times.
Eat more food.
I don't want to do that yet. Now, somebody said on here some good ideas. We've got American sparkling water is my favorite thing for that. It has a little carbonation and helps you feel full. There's also protein waters you can buy. I haven't tried those. Have you tried them?
No, that sounds gross.
They look like a Gatorade, but they're protein. I've seen them at Costco. To
I
me,
mean, but
it,
what kind of protein are they? Are they like an isolate? Are they whey? Are they
I think
so
they're
like
isolates. They're usually like maybe 100 calories for the bottle, and you get like 25 grams of like 20 to 25. Like it's almost perfect. But
mm.
without trying it, I've decided it's going to have a weird mouth feel because how can it not? Right. But I also haven't tried it. So, and then she mentions gum. Now that's a big one for me, right? I'm a snacker.
Ooh.
I've got kids with snacks all over my house at all times. And so if I'm trying to be like, I'm sticking to my plan, no matter what my numbers are, I'm somebody who will definitely go over without realizing because, I'm cleaning up after the kids and I pop in some goldfish here or take a bite of their sandwich or something like that. And so I like to just chew gum. It doesn't, I'm not somebody where it upsets my stomach. I know there's people where either the sugar alcohols or the just chewing all day can cause some bloat and gastric upset. But I think that's a fantastic way to keep your mouth busy. And then Diet Coke is my
So
um
fun fact,
all of it.
I have chewed 43 pieces of gum at once. That is the most, and I do not recommend it.
Were you actually able to chew though, or did you just house them all in your mouth at once?
No, I was chewing it. So you can't put them all in and just go to town. You have to like build up. So you add a piece and you add a piece, and
Right.
as it gets into the amalgamous blob of gum in your mouth, then it just goes better.
Was
But
that
yeah,
just
yeah.
on
I
a
mean,
Thursday night and you were just bored?
I think we were just driving somewhere and I was doing something to annoy Jillian. Yeah, I was just like, "Hey, babe, look at this dumbass thing I can do."
Hey, fantastic way to not eat snacks.
Um, but yeah, so I think what you in all things within moderation, right? And so it doesn't bother your stomach. So there's two things I think to make sure that you consider with the chewing gum. And one is what you said, like the sugar alcohols for the sugar free or like the low calorie, calorie free gum. So first and foremost, if you're doing a ton of it, but a lot of people do find digestive distress with that.
Yeah.
And then along with that, remember when things are located or they're labeled as 0 calories, it's normally because of the serving size and it's a workaround of around what the Food and Drug Administration allows people to label things. It's not actually 0 calories. So if you're going through multiple packs of gum in a day, shit can add up. So you don't necessarily want to go overboard, super ham on just chew and go. And the second thing is obviously if it's sugar free or not, because if
Yeah.
you're doing the full sugar gum, that's going to add up a lot faster too.
Well, and it'll
Um,
have the macros on there and it'll say like 2 grams of carb, but then it says 0 calories. And that's those tricky rules that the FDA can use. But if you're somebody who's running through like, 12 pieces of gum, then like that's making a decent notch in your day, I guess. But the thing about hunger, especially at the end of a diet, and if you're pushing past like previous limits, maybe where we're trying to get to like a leaner place than we've ever been, or we're being more aggressive with a diet than we've ever been. To think now on day 3 of the challenge, and this person who commented did our last challenge, I recognize his name. So he's probably thinking back to like the end of that one. But I would hesitate so early in the challenge to start thinking to myself, what am I going to do at the end when it's hard and to already get stressed out about hunger? Because in a situation like this, hunger is going to happen and you have to accept it and almost welcome it. Because if all you think about is how to fight it, you're going to end up in the pantry, man. You're going to end up with snacks. That's what's going to
well, I
happen.
almost feel like you end up hungrier at that point too.
Well, because then it takes on like this negative hunger kind of feeling where I know if I'm in a diet phase, it's going to take, if we make an adjustment, it's not going to happen that first week. Even if I'm perfect, it's going to take like 2 or 3 because my body always takes a while. And then as soon as I have a day where all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. And it's like all I can think about the next day, whoosh, like some big change will happen. And so since I've like recognized that pattern, now I'll kind of be like, okay, well, this is good. Let's keep myself busy, get my, Diet Coke, go for a walk, entertain myself a little bit. And then I know something good is probably going to come of it.
So, but I go back and I will stick to my original answer. Eat more food. If you're dieting really hard and your hunger is out of friggin' control, and maybe you're really tired and your sleep is shit, and you're not getting good workouts, and your cardio, like, do some refeeds, do a diet break.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid to do that stuff. Sometimes that's literally what helps you to make progress. I can't tell you how many times I have had somebody dieting really hard and we're in it to win it, and we've been pushing, and they're just in the gutter. They're in the friggin' gutter, and they're not making progress, and they feel like garbage, and hunger is wild. It's like, okay, we're gonna bring the cardio down. We're gonna do less. We're gonna recover up. We're gonna eat some more, and then what do you know? Boom! Now they dropped a pound. They dropped 2 pounds.
Right.
Now they're making progress. Shit, sometimes you can legitimately do that, and I've seen people go from a lower calorie intake to a higher calorie intake and less cardio, making more progress than they were on the lower calorie intake with more cardio.
Oh, it's the best. I had a client where we were in prep and we started out with just 2 days of refeeds. And we were like, let's see what happens. And so we were like watching stuff. And I was like, all right, let's do 3. Let's do 6. And we just like kept doing it. And the next thing you know, we were like 5 weeks into this unplanned diet break where we were like, well, shit, if it keeps working and you just roll with it. And so the question I can hear people wondering is, at what point would you implement that? And then how crazy do you go? So like, because the name is tricky, right? You hear the words diet break, and I feel like it does the same, like cheat meal, like, whoo, yes, it's a break. I can not do this anymore, and I'll go back to it. It's very different. And I I'm probably a bit more careful, a little bit more hesitant to jump straight into doing them, where I like to make sure we've plateaued for like a solid week and we've cleaned up everything else, and then be like, okay, let's go ahead, depending on what the goal is and like the
Yeah.
timeline. But usually I'm going to be like, okay, let's check everything else, make sure we're in a good spot. If they're going to bring up anything, like if they're miserable, then for sure we're going to do one. I like to get to a diet break before we're in misery. Training's not going well, like things like that. And if we still have like a long road, then yeah, we're going to add them in. But I usually like to see a week of like solid plateaus, and we're already like, I don't want to decrease further. So then my next reaction would be to increase from there. And then, like you said, we pair it with a drop in cardio. I'll drop cardio in half. And
That's my go-to normally.
yeah.
I'll normally straight to half cardio.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Do you
But
drop protein?
no, I don't drop protein because I find for a lot of people, so obviously I still work with a lot of competitors. And for those individuals, that protein becomes pretty pivotal in them staying satiated and full.
Yep.
And it doesn't hurt to have the more protein or to keep the
Right.
protein the same, right? So I really like it because for a lot of those people, when you bring the carbs up, um, like you have the refeed or 2 refeeds back to back, like, oh my God, I'm so much hungrier than I was. What the F?
Yes.
Like, oh, okay.
That's a
So
great point.
we need to keep that in check. So I don't tend to goof with the protein, but you're right. It should be called like a deficit break, not like a diet break, because you're still in a diet, right?
Right.
It's still controlled. It's still purposeful. You're just trying to like go to what you would expect or try and put maintenance at
Yeah.
for, the 4 days to 7 days, however long you're going to do it.
Yeah. I usually am going to increase carbs by like 25 to 50%, I guess.
I'll normally go kind of typically if we're at a diet break, I have refeeds in the plan, and I'll go
You
to
know what that looks
close to
like.
what that refeed is gonna be
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if somebody has never tried this before. Don't go like double your carbs. I wouldn't do that. Um, but like a good boost, if I have
Yeah.
somebody who is dieting and we're currently around like 140, like 130 to 150 on carb, I'm probably going to bump them just shy of like 200 maybe for that little bit and see.
Yep.
Fats, I don't normally change too much unless we're doing a big jump in carbs. Then I might bump them by like 5, because usually carbs are going to have their fat buddies that come along. So it gets harder unless you're just doing white rice or something like that. And then protein, because I'm a very like rhythmic protein person where I have a rhythm and routine. I don't really change people's protein because I'm like, I don't want to ruin your plans. So we're just going to bump
Hmm.
other things up. And then the hunger thing. I feel like that's a very good point to bring up for people who haven't tried this approach before. I personally hate refeeds with a burning passion because I know I'm going to be so hungry on day 3. Like if we do 2 back-to-back refeeds on day 3, my body is like, hell yeah, let's go with those 200 carb. And then I'm back in like diet land.
So do you stick with all the exact same food sources when you do your refeeds, or do you bring in stuff that's more palatable, maybe a little bit more calorie dense, those kind of things when you do them?
I usually, so if I have 2 refeeds, then usually one is going to be a pumped up version of my routine day. And then the other one, it's realistically going to be pancakes. Like
So I do think,
100%.
yeah, and I think that's something to consider too. Because even if you keep things to routine, you can still see the increase in hunger with those. But if you want to like really try and keep that, for those of you guys that are listening, to the minimum and really be like, I want to try this. I really want to decrease the chances that I'm going to get hungry and F it up for myself. Keep it to the exact same things that you use in your routine. Do more oatmeal, do more apples, do more rice, do more sweet potato, whatever that you're already eating that's keeping you successful, and just increase that instead. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to do pancakes. You don't have to do gummy worms, whatever.
Yeah, people go a little crazy with it, and it's definitely one of that's why I like to do it half and half, because I know the one way is smarter. But your girl loves brunch, so
But I think that's normal, right?
and,
Like,
well, and it's a nice mental break, but you have to know.
yes.
I know I'm going to be extra hungry. And so I just know that third day is going to suck a little. But if you don't know that and you haven't done them before, and then on day 3, you're like, what the hell? I thought this was supposed to help. And like now I feel worse. Like it's something to know ahead of time. And then you probably want to do it Steven's way. And then because you want to kind of sneak up on the body and like, hey guys, here's extra carbs. Don't ask for more tomorrow.
But I think that's also something too. So like if you also are one of those people that can't handle the sweets or the pancakes or the more processed stuff, and that's going to put you over, it's important to know that and be honest with yourself. Whereas like for you and for me, I'm going to include stuff that's a little bit more processed or sweet, or get a little bit more of the stuff that I haven't had because I've been limiting myself with a diet.
Right.
That kind of, it does sometimes really help with the mental aspect of, it's not that I can't have that stuff. It's just that, okay, I need to moderate it, and there's a time and a place. So
Yeah.
maybe on my refeed days is when I get my pancakes, or that thing that I was really, really wanting to work in, but didn't quite have the space because I was hungry, and I'd overeat if I did it on these other days.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's a great strategy. Okay. I've got 2 good ones. So somebody said, if I want to get down, which I want to click and see if this is a woman. It looks like it's a woman. If I want to get down to 10% body fat percentage and food is high in good fats, avocados, eggs, salmon, and so on, still in a calorie deficit, would it be possible? So I think she's asking if her diet is high in fats, but still a deficit. Can they get that lean?
I mean, yeah,
10% body fat on a woman.
I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but there is an amount of body fat that you have to stay alive.
Yeah.
Um, and it's much higher for women than it is for men. So when they talk about women getting down to like 6% body fat, I'm like, yeah, about that. Um, because I think it's like 8 to 12% is what you need to like be alive for women. And then for men, it's like 3 to 5%, right?
What would you say, like peak week, show day, perfection? Couldn't have asked it to go better. Where do your competitors come in?
And see, so this is also another misnomer, and I think why body fat is bullshit. Which is going to piss everybody off. I think body fat testing is the biggest fucking waste of time and money that people can do,
Very
because
inconsistent.
everybody looks different at different levels of body fat.
Right.
Things that are going to matter: your bone structure, your muscle density, how much muscle you do have, how much muscle you don't have, um, if you're on your menstrual cycle or not. Like there's just a whole slew of factors that matter here. And so like for me, get off the idea of body fat and get on to, okay, this is how I want to look. And because a women's bikini competitor also going to be a different body fat composition than like a women's physique competitor, where
Right.
essentially they want to be as lean as a male bodybuilder.
Right. Yeah. So I'd say like, well, because I think a lot of people who are, doing our challenge or listening and stuff, like they probably have like generally it's the bikini competitor like look. And I think the trick too, they think of what they look like at the end. And for that, it's like exceptionally low body fat. It hurts to be there. Like I hear 10% body fat and my sit bones
Blech.
instantly hurt because that's my thing I think about when I'm super lean is that it literally hurts my butt to sit on a chair and things like that. But they are only that lean for unless they're doing shows back to back and like things like that. But ideally, you're timing it so that they're there for like a blip on the radar. And then, they're at different body fat percentages a few weeks before and a few weeks after.
Essential body fat. That's the word. So essential body fat is typically considered for males 3% and for females 12%.
12%.
That means 12% for females. That's why like when people are like, yeah, I got this body comp, which one? So if you're doing the bioelectrical impedance, so like the in-body, the handheld stuff,
This is at home.
7.5% error ratio, right? So 7.5% error ratio on the good one, given that you tested appropriately, had all the testing conditions, and it was a high quality and well-administered test. And even the best ones still have like a 2.5 to 3.5% error ratio. Again, given that all considerations are appropriate, it just doesn't make sense to get caught up on that number.
Right.
And yeah, but like here's the other thing too. When you're dieting and you're getting ready for a show, you look like shit most of the time because you're flat. You're depleted. You've been working out really hard. You've been doing a lot of cardio. You haven't had a lot of carbs. So like your muscles are flat. They're not full. They don't have the same. It's different than, okay, after we've done some refeeds or we peaked and then we've done the things to like fill out and really
So,
make you have that look with those nice full muscle bellies too. So like I feel like a lot of people will get into that point where they're dieting hard as hell and they're flat and they're wrecked and they're stressed and they've just been doing all the work. Like, why don't I look like this? And they might even be lean enough at that point, but they haven't been doing the stuff to actually bring the physique back to what we would call like normal and fill out.
yeah.
Right.
So that's a good point that draws us back to part of her question, right? So she asked about wanting to get to 10%. And I think we both recommend you don't do that. Maybe push to a level of leanness you've never been before. Like that's one thing. But like now we know. I would have thought 8 to 10 would have been essential body fat, but like, if 12 is essential body fat, that means that at 14, maybe even 16, we're seeing weird things happen with your period. Your hair is not going to feel nice. Your nails are going to be weird. This is not a lifestyle we want to lead, right? Like when competitors go and do that, that's for, like I said, like a blip. It's not somewhere we want to live because it's less than ideal, especially if it's sub essential body fat. So if we're in the race, just get as lean as we can at healthy levels. And we're wanting to do it on a high fat diet. So she didn't use the
Mm-hmm.
K word, but
The
yeah,
K
you could
word.
be keto and you could prioritize, maybe you're not keto, maybe you just super high fats,
High
avocado,
fat, low carb.
eggs, salmon, all of this delicious stuff, right? You can, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you could only eat eggs for the rest of your life. You could eat a Snickers every day. If you're in a calorie deficit, like you should be able to get leaner. But you brought up a good point with the way you're going to look and the way you're going to perform and feel and all of that, if you're cutting all of those carbs, might be less than ideal.
Yep. And like I haven't done many, but I have done like keto preps and keto peaks. But you know how many carbs I peaked somebody with when they were doing keto? Like 60 or 70 for like
Yeah.
2 days. That was it. Because they were true keto and they were getting like 15 grams of carbs in every day.
Yeah.
Like that
What
was their
happens?
carb.
They just like, whoop, like feel crazy when they got their peak.
I mean, yeah, she filled out way more. Like she wasn't the most muscular person. This was a while back. Wonderful, wonderful human being. Um, and yeah, like that was all it took. You didn't have to go crazy.
Yeah.
But of course, with keto, she had to be more aware of her like sodium intake and keeping that up and stable and the other stuff. So, you're not going to want to go from keto to eating 300 carbs, probably. It's probably not a great idea. Not to mention your digestive system's going to hate you.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be a rough
Yeah.
weekend. That'd be rough. Okay. So,
Yeah. See, this is the problem. I've been reading. So I'm like doing research for my talk coming up here next weekend. And so I'm reading like keto diet versus low carb diets and how those might affect things like thyroid hormone or carbohydrate metabolism and all this other stuff. Like it gets very convoluted and very I don't know, confusing. So try to just be like, okay, I want to get to this leanness. This is where I'm going to get. Great. And then also ask other people, get other opinions, specifically good opinions, because very rarely do we see ourselves as we are.
Yeah.
And so I have seen so many people be really friggin' lean and not be able to like recognize it. Because also one of here's this is the last thing I'll say on this one. The competitors and the people on Instagram, they're all posing and doing lighting and paying attention to all this other shit that has a huge impact on how that picture looks and how like you're seeing them. I'm flexing my abs. I'm like sitting into my glute a little bit. I'm getting the right angle. I have the down lighting. I have all this other stuff. That shit in and of itself is a skill to look that way. So if you're expecting yourself to look exactly like that person, it's probably not a fair thing to do to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, for so many different reasons, but yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, and Photoshop exists, by the way.
Oh, and I'm like shocked by the amount it's be like I didn't even know like when we were talking about you said people Photoshop the professional photos that they get from when they're on stage to make them.
Yep.
I just don't. Is it a time issue? Is that why? Because I have so many other things going on. I don't have time to sit here and know that people are like to do it myself or know that others are doing it. Like, whoa.
I only know because people tell me and send me shit. I'm terrible at actually going out and finding stuff online. But yeah, it's very common practice for people to Photoshop, bring their shoulders out a little bit more, bring their waist in a little bit more, make the booty a little bigger, and that kind of stuff. And very well known, like famous people. We're not talking about just the airbrushing to get rid of maybe some of the imperfections on the skins, but literally changing the way that physique looks to sell something typically.
Right? Yeah. Okay, we have Megan. She says, "Oh, this might be our last one because I think we're gonna approach an hour soon." Um, I love the Pro Physique code. What would be some recommendations for activity during small breaks at work? I do walk on my lunch break, and we have a nice paved track that's about a mile loop around my hospital. I have a couple of bands stashed in my office, the loop type, and some resistance bands with handles. So I love this question because I love what they call those, which is an exercise snack. And exercise snacks can be a great way if you look at your schedule and you're just like, how am I supposed to do this? Right. And it seems impossible. Exercise snacks are a great way to slowly ramp things up without it feeling super overwhelming and like my favorite thing. So, Stephen, what would you tell our friend Megan?
Uh, so it's normally I'm actually go on the other one. You can absolutely use the exercise snacks, the small things. They still count. They still matter. They still, um, like they're still going to benefit you. I normally try and get people to find ways where they can get a more commitment. Like, all right, where's something where we can drop out some time where we can really get you into focus on it. Even if it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we can get you into position to really be in it to win it on that. Because if you're more advanced, it matters. If you're
Yeah,
newer to this stuff,
right.
that's perfect. That's awesome. If you haven't been doing shit, yes, just something is wow. It's beautiful. It's chef's kiss. You're gonna make progress. If you've been doing this for a while and you're trying to supplement going to the gym and getting real weight training in with a 15-minute banded workout or something at work, it's better than nothing. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the same as what you were doing over there.
Well, I would say at that point, I would be like, why are you doing that? Why are we adding on a banded workout? If you've already been to the gym today and you were there, then if you feel like you need to do another workout in your office, then I feel like you probably need to increase your intensity during that training session, you know? But I would
For sure.
imagine with this, I think this is more like there isn't a routine outside of what's going on. How do I create one? How do I get there? Which, when I was scrolling through the questions, a lot of them are kind of in that same place where they're like, How much cardio should I be doing? How do I start that? How do I start this routine and things? So if you're doing nothing, you're a blank slate person who's been at work on your feet, you have a desk and you have all of these options and things like that, then I mean, I would start with just walking. Like as much as I want everyone to resistance train,
Yep.
I would start with walking before I'd pull out the bands and things like that. And then like Steven said, I would then search my week for 2 days where I can dedicate 30 minutes to giving those resistance bands all of my attention and having maybe 2 full body workouts. Maybe it's an upper and a lower. I like 2 full body because then if you don't get to the other one, you've already
Agreed.
accomplished it all. Everyone got some love. Um, I don't know that I would like program in resistance band snacks into my day. Because then at that point, if you're doing like 2 of those at 15 minutes, could we have rearranged our day to maybe have a dedicated workout where we're a bit more focused?
I think for me, if the idea is we're trying to get it in at lunch or during a break
Mm-hmm.
from work,
Yep.
it's that we're specifically trying not to let it take away from something else. Um, and there is more than likely there is something that we can take, whether it's like TV time or time that we use for XYZ. You don't want to take away necessary time with your kids, but you could also do stuff with your kids. It's going to incorporate something like a band or activity to do that, right? If you have the family, that kind of stuff. Um, but I look at that as like at 15 minutes, again, if you're doing absolutely nothing, cool. But I'm with you. I would much rather just have a dedicated half an hour. If it's at home, if it's whatever, we do it. Find a gym that's on the way home, right?
Right.
So that you, when you're passing by it, you're gonna stop in, do your thing, go home, clean up, and go back, do the rest of the stuff that you need to do. To try and find those like convenient options. Uh, it's here's the truth. Like if you're doing nothing, yes, you'll make progress doing very little. Once you've been doing that for a bit, you have to do more. You have to like hit a threshold to continue to progress and improve. And like, I think that's like this hard thing where what you should be looking to do if you're looking for the snacks and how to fit it into your day, find the things that you enjoy doing activity wise that are going to make you happy and fulfilled doing them.
Yeah.
Because those are things that then you're not going to have to think as much about. You're going to be motivated to do. Start there.
Yeah, the bands thing throws me off. I can't imagine myself like setting it up and then like doing something with that. I'm also just, I have a weird thing about bands. I like numbers, and so the fact that they don't give me more feedback kills me. But that's where I would do something then, like push-ups, or you know what I mean? Like, oh, I have 5 minutes between patients. I'm gonna do a set of as many push-ups as I can, or like something like that, where then I can like track myself, I guess. But that's just because I'm weird
I
about
mean,
having.
if you're doing 5 minutes of as many push-ups as you can between patients, your patients are going to wonder what the fuck you're doing.
Well, you'd be stretched. Don't do it all 5 minutes,
Like,
Steven. I meant one set.
what's wrong?
Or maybe like,
Like,
30 in as few sets as like, like adding something like that. Because if we're doing body weight squats, that's not really going to change very much. I would say walking is going to be king there. That would be my opportunity to just get as many steps as humanly possible. And I love that she mentioned a track outside where maybe she's getting some sunshine, a complete change of scenery. It can be really fantastic for your mood, your circadian rhythm, your digestion, your blood sugar, and your ability to focus on your tasks the rest of the day. So that's my vote. Go outside.
yeah, yeah, I'd
Um,
agree.
okay, do you want to do one more?
Yeah,
All right.
make it a terrible one.
Oh,
Don't. I'm just kidding, guys.
okay.
Whoever's that question we answer next, your question is great.
Okay, so this isn't about you, person who asked this one, but are you ready?
No. Yes.
Uh, oh, well, now I got two. I'm going to give you a choice between two. Okay. Number one, how important is sleep? I have a large family and young children, and sometimes I only get 4 to 5 hours. Or I wonder what is the best way to build my butt when only using bands and body weight? Is it even possible?
Okay. Both, because I think they're
They're very similar.
fast. Well, we'll say they're fast answers. How important
Yeah.
is sleep? Very important. If you're not getting enough sleep, your fat loss is going to be negatively impacted by that. Your hunger signaling is going to be negatively impacted by that. And you're just going to make it more difficult. Now, if you don't have any control over it and it is what it is, guess what? That's life. You have kids, you have a family. That's okay. It just means that we want to work within what we can, work on your sleep health, make sure that the quality of sleep you're getting is as good as possible in that time. And we just got to do what we can within what we have available. Realistic goals, right?
Word.
Second one, go to a gym, get a gym. There are plenty of gym memberships that are $10 out there. They're pretty widely available. Again, if we just kind of had the talk, if you're just starting, you'll make some progress with maybe some bands, and you can add the bands and do squats with them, and you can do some stuff to build. You should think about not just building the butt, but getting stronger, improving performance, feeling better about what you can do, that kind of stuff. But obviously, you are going to be limited. And if you already have a good base, the bands are probably not going to really do that much. If you're going to train with that stuff, you have to be training at a very high intensity, which means pretty much training close to and at failure if you're going to want to see progress with that, if you're even a little bit like trained or athletic or anything of the sort.
You're going to be sore like all the time. Can you imagine having to do like banded booty work until you're hitting that level of intensity? Like, whew, that's going to hurt for a little bit when you go to sit down. So I think these questions are like similar in that they kind of are potentially you're in situations in both of them where there's nothing we can do about it. And so if we just don't have access to anything else and your kids just refuse to sleep no matter what you try to do, I feel you. This too shall pass. They will eventually sleep. There's that. And the thing that you have to compare is then like you can't compare yourself to you who used to get 8 hours of sleep or to the other person who gets it and then be like, I'm doing everything. Why can't I lose weight? Well, because you only sleep 4 hours a day and your body is like freaking out and it's doing everything it can to protect itself. And it's not ideal. But I'll tell you, we've talked on this podcast a lot about like I am notorious. I didn't sleep. I'm still going to do my workout. I have a cold. I'm still going to do my workout because with 4 kids in the house and things like that, if there's a part of me that feels like I can get it done, if I don't pursue that, somebody else will be sick in 2 days or something else is going to happen. And so for me, I know like, could I do things more ideally? Yes, but I do them in the way that makes me feel sane and that process things off the list. So sometimes we just have to roll with what it is. Now, if there's any way you can improve your sleep, like turning off the baby monitor or locking them in their room, which sounds crazy, like childproofing or like whatever to be like stay
within
put.
all legal limits.
Yeah, to like, yeah. And like, don't have like CPS coming for me or something. But like my husband had to be like, the baby's old enough to turn off her monitor. There's no reason you should hear the one small fuss in the middle of the night, have it ruin my sleep for 45 minutes when like she doesn't even notice. But there were, so, and that can be something that holds a lot of people back. And then that can be a game changer and the kid will figure it out. Like it's part of it. So do what you can with what you have. Growing a butt is super hard. I have access to a full gym and I've been trying for like 7 years and it won't grow. So we probably need more than bands, which is, if it's all we have access to, then you do everything you can to grow that booty until you get access to heavier weights. But specifically that muscle group is going to respond to like body weight, like lots of weight. Because I see some people too, where they're like, why won't my glutes grow? I've been hip thrusting 45 pounds forever. And I'm like, because you kind
They're
of,
strong ass muscles, dude.
yeah,
Like, and for short, strong ass muscles, you got to train them heavy.
they can handle
Realistically,
way more than you think. Way
yeah.
more. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man, we might be like right at the hour mark, actually.
I think we dicked around a bit before we started to hit record.
We did. I think we had like 9 minutes of that. And
What we
that's when I
normally
was
do.
like, we should record.
Mm.
Yay. Okay. Well, I have a super long list. And if you are here from the Transformation Challenge listening to this one, I'm going to keep this going. And I encourage you guys to just continue to add to my very long list of questions. And then we have Q&A fodder forever, and we'll just continue to jump in and try to find stuff that's useful. What's else? What else is going on, Stephen? So this is going to get released next week, which will mean Command the Stage would be happening.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if
When
you're listening to
Arnold
this, you're doing your cardio for Command the Stage.
Yeah.
What else we got going on?
So the Arnold's coming up in March, that first weekend. So if you're heading out to the Arnold, I know I will be there. Say hello. Tell me how much you like and or dislike whatever I choose to say. But I always love hearing from people in person. I think we'll probably be hanging out around the core booth a lot for those of us that are going to be there. So we would love to see you and hear from you for anybody who listens. I think that's really the big thing. And then, yeah, like what registration's still open and available for the Transformation Challenge. So you can still get in on that, even if you're like a week or two behind, whatever. So don't let that dissuade you from getting involved and hopefully maybe making some good changes for yourself.
Yeah, we're going to keep it open. So if you do want to join and take advantage of the standard entry, by the time this one goes out, I could be wrong, but I would guess that we'll probably have hit our guided coaching max. But we'll have standard entry, but everyone's day 90 is going to be the same, is the trick. So if you join late, it's not like a rolling end. It'll still end on the original one. So if you have any questions, that's me, Christina at prophysique.com, for anything podcast or transformation challenge related stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week.
Ah!